got it.
All right, we're on.
All right.
Well, hi, Rudy. It's me and you. I'm Dr. Rachel. I'm licensed clinical psychologist, and you are.
I am Rudy Jacobson. I'm from ZenTeachings.com.
And yeah, and we're here together which we've done this before. We've connected. We have a similar framework that we come from on social media, and so we always have dynamic, interesting discussions. So here we are again today to
That's right.
talk about meditation and mindfulness and how that contributes to well, I think you and I both know the ways in which it contributes to a grand sense of well-being across many domains. But today we decided to talk about the physicality and the prowess that comes from having a mind that is disciplined when it comes to the body and connecting to that. So is that right? Is that what we're going to talk about here today?
Yeah, it sounds like a good talk to me. Excited to have another conversation with you. We're getting better each time. So now we actually have video and audio. So
Yeah.
here's to another good talk.
Right. And I said to you after the last time we talked, I said I would be happy and honored to be Zen Teachings resident psychologist. And that was sort of in jest, but it's fun to be able to collaborate with you for sure.
No, absolutely. I love your stuff. I love following you. So we're happy to have you and glad to be doing this.
So Rudy, can I start us off by, I think that you're really the pro here when it comes to your work at the dojo and the martial arts and the way in which, I think the discipline you must be able to implement there is staggering. So can I ask you to kick it off and just sort of share a little bit about how you use meditation to support that process?
Absolutely. For us, the way we look at true martial arts and actually practicing is there really isn't a distinction between the physical practice, the punching, the kicking, and the actual mental discipline. There's an idea that my instructor, Sifu, kind of introduced to me, talking about this idea of the first fight. So let's say you're in a physical confrontation on the street, or you're about to engage in a sparring match in the dojo. It's controlled, but still it's physical.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any chance of winning that fight, so to speak, the first fight is the one inside. And being able to control your mental environment, control your respond how you want to, as opposed to reacting out of some sense of panic or anything like that. And if we're practicing appropriately, if we're practicing in the right way, then there really shouldn't be too much disconnect between being on the cushion, so to speak, and being on the mats. So when we have our testing, when we have classes, they're very physically hard, and they're designed to be. They're designed sometimes to be unfair, and you're going to get beat up, and you're going to want to quit. And that makes sense. And it's of course easier to quit than to keep going. But the test is to be the person you want to be when you want to be that person. And so when it's easier to stay down, you get up. When it's easier to stay on the couch, you come into the dojo. It's easier not to have that tough conversation at work. You have it anyway. And it's just deciding that despite obstacles, despite any challenges, you're going to do what you're supposed to do. And that's how we tie the mental discipline into the physical practice, which really was not meant to ever be divorced. The founder of Zen and martial arts, it's same time. So it's later on that we kind of divorced them and decided that, well, here's your sport fighting, your MMA, and martial arts is over here, and it's one and the same. So disciplining the internal environment is just as important, and the physical aspects are a tool to harness that environment. They're not the goal. It's a byproduct.
Right. That makes a lot of sense to me. The connection between mind and body there. And as you were talking, what occurred to me was sort of this idea of courage over comfort, which I talk about all the time. Yeah, and it sounds like that's what you're describing. I'm curious if you would be willing to So, you know, it sounds, I think it's the type of like easier said than done thing, right? Like, and when you're in the heat of physical pain, emotional pain, the fire of that is so greatly unpleasant that people don't don't want to do the hard thing when the rubber meets the road oftentimes, even though it is what's best and it will yield the richest results.
Hmm.
So I guess I'm wondering for you, and for you personally, and then maybe also how you teach your students, what's the actual process for you internally? What does it look like when you're being pushed to that point and it's painful and you are down and you're going to get up even though it's the harder thing to do? Like, what is that? Walk us through that.
I think for me, honestly, and it might be a part of the fact that I spent most of my life in the dojo, part of how my parents kind of pushed me. For me, it's really as simple as a decision. I think that the
Mm,
idea of, as you put it, like the courage and the discomfort, things like that. I tell my students, learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, and just
right.
decide this is what you're going to do, and understand that you can't guarantee winning. You can't guarantee that everything's going to go the way you want it to, but you can guarantee that you're going to give your best effort. If that means you get a black eye, then so be it. If that means you're tired, then so be it. But you've got to completely go for it. And it's just a
Mm,
decision
mm,
to be there, and
mm,
so where I tie meditation in, it's
mhm.
not the biggest misnomer. If you ever watch a fight, let's say, and that's my world, so that's kind of my analogy. It probably would apply to anything else.
Mm,
But some of the greatest champions, and I can tell you, of course they were scared, of course they thought about training. Muhammad Ali in boxing, so he loved being a champ, but he hated every moment of training camp. I mean, it's
mm,
hard.
mm,
I mean, and
mm.
then if I sit here and if I win a fight and then I tell you that I never thought about quitting, then I'm lying. I mean, we
Right.
all think about that every day. I mean, like there's
Right.
no way, even in your schooling and your whatever, I'm sure there were moments when you didn't feel like doing the assignment or it crossed your mind. It's the
Right.
most readily available, easy option. The idea, though, is to be able to control that and to
Mm,
acknowledge it. You don't make it go away. That's the thing with meditation, is it doesn't make your life easier
right.
insofar as you don't deal with things. I mean, I shared with you before we started recording some personal things I'm going through now. You still
Mm,
have these waves and these feelings of wanting to quit come. It's just
right.
that you're in a position to deal with them effectively and to respond how you want to.
Right. Right. Yeah. So and that resonates, and I think what you're describing is, and what meditation affords us, is this ability to be conscious. And so it sounds like what you cultivate is an awareness of the impulse, or the thought that says, screw this is too painful, this is too hard, and then to be able to, with intention and awareness, decide to do the hard thing, because ultimately that's what's going to contribute to your goal and your ability to achieve that. um and so the sitting practice for you, um is sort of the fertile ground for the cultivation of that consciousness that then you embody as you encounter your daily life and things at the dojo, and these ways that you have to exert your body there.
Well, I think the sitting practice. I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine this week who was going through a girlfriend issue, and he was saying, how does he wanted to fix himself? These are his words. He's, I'm tired of feeling this way all the time. He knows he overreacts to things, and
Right.
he's, how does meditation help? How am I going to do this? So he's really kind of completely invested in now, and he's practicing.
Mm,
And I told him that the idea with the sitting is like, stuff is still going to suck. I mean, you're not ever going to get away from that. What you
right.
can do, though, is understand how you feel, how you should feel, and then almost like walking a tightrope, there's always going to be, you're always falling a little to the left, always falling a little bit to the right, but you correct before you fall off the rope. There's nobody who walks tightrope who just walks straight down the line. So gravity is still doing its thing, but you're able to recognize when you're being pulled left or right sooner, and you're able to correct and stay on that rope. I think that the decision not to quit has to come before, because in the moment, if you're debating, during the actual, you go for a run, let's say, and if you say I'm running 5 miles, if it's tough at mile 1, and you give yourself the option of quitting, then of course you're going to stop. I mean, it's just the easier thing to do. And what meditation does for me is I can, with authority, say I am not going to stop before I even embark upon the task. Because in my opinion, true meditation practice, actually meditating, again, not being meditative, is difficult. It's difficult to still.
It is.
It's not just relaxing and daydreaming. So you're cultivating that kind of discipline, and you're giving yourself the authority and empowering yourself to be able to exert that type of decision making that you can hold yourself accountable to. But you're too late if in the workout or if in the conversation you're trying to figure out what kind of person you are. You're too late. You're going to stop. That's my experience. And so when we test students, oftentimes, especially for a higher rank, there are multiple hours of testing. And then afterwards, you're going to be sparring, and you've got maybe 10 or 11 people that you're going to have to spar, and they're fresh, and you've been testing, and it's not fair. I mean, you're going to get beat up. It's not fair. You're not going to look as good as you do if you're fresh on a Monday night. And of course, you're going to want to quit. But the thing is we don't judge a success in terms of, did you score this point, but it's, were you able to give your best effort the entire time? So I think that's something that, in my mind, the dojo is kind of like your lab for out there. It's where you actually cultivate yourself and prepare yourself for dealing with actual tests. Because hopefully you don't live in a world where you're getting punched every day. I haven't been in an actual fight, and I don't know the last time. It's been years and years and years in terms of not being attacked, or being in a bar fight. But that's not what you're training for.
I'm glad to hear that. Right.
Yeah. But you do get, you're in line at Starbucks and somebody cuts in front of you, and you get, or you get your boyfriend or your girlfriend who gets on your nerves, your husband or wife, whatever it is, your boss.
Right.
You get these emotional attacks all the time.
Right.
How do you respond to that? And do you shut down, throw a tantrum? Because that's more important. That's probably more likely to happen, I hope, at least in your life, than being punched every day, right?
Sure.
But part of the practice is being able to be comfortable and having this person who could probably do harm to you,
right?
If they wanted to, but you trust that their partners, not opponents, they're not going to, but they're actually coming at you, and you might be tired, and you may not be able to defend yourself as well as you could, but you're staying in there, and you're pushing. And then I think that's what translates into your daily life.
Yeah. The dojo and the work you're doing there sounds so symbolic for life and sort of the Zen Dharma too. One thing you were describing, so I hear you really saying there's this commitment to the endeavor and to pushing through the pain of that, to not let that determine whether or not you throw your hands up, and that it's challenging because it isn't fair, and it doesn't feel okay, and that you sort of make this decision to still live aligned with who you are and who you want to be, and meditation helps with that. I was curious about, so for me, to some extent, the mindfulness meditation that I sometimes practice, regularly practice, is about cultivating that discipline, taking the beat. And it also gives me this chance to get curious about the internal experience I'm having, particularly around the unpleasant emotions or the difficult sensations. If I'm sitting and I'm in a posture and my leg starts to go numb because I'm sitting cross-legged for longer than my body wants to, like that becomes then the object of the meditation. And I can get really curious about what it feels like when I'm uncomfortable in my body,
Yeah.
and how that changes and what's the sensation, and noticing the wave of that.
Yeah.
And so when yeah, right. Is that a part of it for?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you brought up understanding and feeling that uncomfort. I am a firm believer that everybody should be punched in the face at least once, to
I've been
understand.
punched in the face. I've been punched in the face. One of my first jobs out of college by a mentally ill, tall man. I was
Wow.
at work, so I've been there. I know it was really awful, but I sort of feel like
Well,
I
I mean,
was
it's a
okay.
scary experience, and I'm sorry that happened, but
But
there's some
according to
sense of after, I'm sure you felt like, wow, I didn't die. I didn't break. I'm not as weak as
right,
I thought,
right,
and understanding that, I mean, there is that. I mean, you don't want to go through it necessarily in real life,
yeah,
but you did, and here you
yeah,
are perfectly fine. And you know
yeah,
now, without a doubt, that if you get hit in the face, you're not going to die. You don't
right,
have to be as afraid of the world. And I think that the other opportunity that's there when you talk about your knees hurting when you're sitting cross-legged or whatever, you have an itch you want to scratch,
right,
is
right,
who's in charge. It's like, because your body lies to you. So if I'm sitting there and my nose itches, I think all I've got to do is, once I scratch this, then I'll be still. Well, your body has just kind of learned that it's the boss, not your mind. And
right.
so then as soon as you do this, now you've got an itch here, 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 you got to move. So you've got to just decide that, no, I'm not moving. I'm going to focus on the breath. And the idea isn't to, in my opinion, focus on that knee hurting or to focus on the part of you that
Mhm,
wants to be scratched or whatever. But it's almost like if we're having this conversation, if
mhm,
somebody walks in, you're not actively ignoring them, but you're engrossed in the conversation. You just don't notice it. And so
mhm,
if we can
mhm.
get deep enough in the breath, those surface
Mm,
level things kind of go away. And it's
right.
not ignoring the back pain, it's being so focused on your breathing that you don't notice it, if that
Mhm,
makes
mhm,
sense.
mhm. Yeah, it does. I'm not I don't know, that sounds exciting to get to a place to in my practice. I don't know that I have yet, but I'm early on in my, meditation practice, I'd say. Um, so that sounds like goals. Uh, but I am really interested in meditation in motion, like, so the sitting practice is powerful, and I love what that, provides in terms of opportunity for, looking inward and being with all the discomfort that comes from that. And then also, and especially for me at the gym, there's just a way that when I'm at the gym, it's so meditative. And I
Mm-hmm.
even sometimes will close my eyes
Mm-hmm.
when I'm in the throes of a workout and really connect to the experience of it. Um, because it translates. And so in those moments when it's hard and I do want to give up, what helps me is to sort of um, recognize what's happening and just be present with the experience of the discomfort and the pain, and name it and label it. And um, it feels like it translates well to emotional pain and psychic pain, which is what I think I help a lot of people with. And they're not disparate. They're not, separate. That,
Right.
yeah,
Right. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, when you are in the gym, I find working out to be very, I want to be precise in my language. I don't think it's meditation, but I think it's very meditative. I mean, I can tell you that certainly if my mind is in it,
hmm,
then I can move more weight. I mean, if I'm thinking about something else, then I'm
right.
not going to be as strong. I'm not going to be as explosive. I'm not going to be I'm not present, and so this
Hmm,
idea of when you're in the gym and you're having a good workout, and you can feel it. You hear athletes talk about, like, I was in the zone, or in martial
yeah,
arts we call it
right.
shen, which means no mind. It's
Right.
when it's just happening, as Bruce Lee would say, or there's what Shiba Sensei used to say is the spirit flows through you. So you're not really the one in charge, and it's being strong there, and what actually happens kind of just takes over. I don't know if that's similar to what you're talking about, if that's
Mm,
if
I
I'm
think it's
missing what you're.
no, it's fascinating, and and what came up for me as you were describing that was, can you say more about, because I think for people who aren't connecting to consciousness or don't meditate, it it sort of feels like abstract or intangible, like what we're talking about. I think for those who aren't doing it, don't experience it themselves. And so when you were saying, when you're lifting, if you're distracted, you can't lift as much. That being present for you affords you the ability to get into the state of flow. To Can you describe that a little bit more? How? Like, what is that? What is that?
Softballs.
Come on,
All
let's. I
right.
mean,
There's an old story. If you were to ask a Zen master what is Zen, which I am not a Zen, I'm not purporting to be,
okay,
but one answer would be just to smack you in the face. That's the answer. Like that, it is being right here, right now. And
right.
one of the amazing things about martial arts is I don't care what your day is like, assuming you
Mhm.
make it to the dojo, and you put on gloves, and you and I are about to try to hit each other. You're going to be in the moment, or you're going to get hurt. And so you're going to have to be focused right now. So how bad your day was at work, how bad your husband or
Right,
wife, right? It doesn't matter, or you're going to get hurt, right?
right, right,
And it's the
right.
same thing to me, if I'm sparring or in a fight or whatever it is, if I'm planning I'm going to hit Rachel with a right hand, left kick, right knee. And that's my plan going, and I have this, then I'm not being in the moment. And anything you
Right,
do that doesn't go
right,
along
right.
with my plan is going to throw me off.
That makes
So
sense.
instead of being so responsive or having to actually, I'm picking my openings, I'm allowing whatever's presented to naturally manifest itself, and I'm responding well. To me,
Right.
the same focus, what I meant in terms of at the gym,
Mhm.
is I don't know if you ever, I do some Olympic lifting too, where it's like the snatching, clean and jerk, that kind of thing, and they're very explosive lifts. So there's a lot to it. You
Mm.
pull and you've got to hip thrust at the right time, shrug your shoulders, get under, and get there, and you have to just do it. If you think your way through it while you're actually trying to move any type of weight, it's not going to happen.
Right.
I mean, I imagine it would be the same if you're a dancer, if you're a pianist. I mean, you can't be in a concert and thinking about what key is going to sound like what. You already have to kind of know that and be locked in and dialed
Right.
in. And
Sure.
that's in that place is where, again, that's what the meditation's kind of about. And so what
Right.
we do is
Right.
we get there, we learn to discipline. If you can't, still your mind, then at least you're going to still your body, and then you're
Mm.
going to be the person you want to be in that moment, in that 10, 15, 20 minutes, 5 minutes on the cushion,
Right.
and take that same discipline into your everyday life. And the fact that I can say this, you mentioned you're kind of new to meditation, and I don't want you to be self-deprecating about it. I mean, I don't get through. There's a old story Sifu told. The guy's been practicing for 50, 60 years, and he said if he can get through one breath, maybe two, then it was a good
Mm.
meditation without his mind.
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
it's a matter of how accountable are we holding ourselves. A lot of people
Right.
will see these things and I say, I can't do that. My mind, I can't meditate. My
Right.
mind's too
Right.
busy. Like, I get it. We all have ADD to some degree.
Mhm.
We all have things going on.
Right.
It's just, but stop giving yourself the excuses, and
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
just,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm with you 100%. And everything you described, you made a lot of sense. And Yeah, I'm coming up on 3 years of meditation practice. And so it's really comforting to hear that your master, who's like decades beyond me, is, that it isn't, that it's a practice because it's a practice. That's what makes it,
Exactly.
um, right,
You're right.
right. And I really appreciate what you said about well, so it makes a lot of sense that, being present affords you this opportunity to engage in the activity in a way that will yield the results that are the richest, as opposed to if you're thinking about what happened, or planning what will happen. That's it. That I was at Kundalini yoga earlier, and she was talking about sort of the way in which there's sort of like this, a lot of people are operating from this like zombie place, like they're just not awake to what's happening for them right now, and that's all there ever is. And so it makes sense that there's a strengthened vitality and focus and ability when you're with what's happening for you in the experience of it, uh, um, in an aware way. So thank you for being willing to take your best stab at that question. It made a lot of sense. Uh,
Thank you.
yeah, and then the other thing you started to talk about, which I, help people with a lot, is this, like, the self-limiting beliefs or the narratives that you were describing as these excuses that I think people really believe, that these things that they tell themselves about their own limitations that may not be true and oftentimes aren't true. And that's not to say meditation is for everybody. It doesn't have to be everybody's thing, although I do think that all human beings would benefit from it. Like, objectively, I think it
Yeah.
is good for us as a species. But I appreciate what you said about the, and so I think even that then becomes the object of the meditation, the thought of I can't.
Well, in your practice, when you deal with your patients, I'm sure I can only imagine if you have this negative self-talk all the time,
Right.
and I believe I can't do something, or I tell myself I can't do it, then you're going to be right. I mean, and
Right.
even if you have the physical ability, if you don't believe you can actually do something and you are predetermined that you're going to fail, then you're going to find a way to do that. I would imagine you probably have people come to you all the time who are, stuck in these negative cycles, and you just kind of have to shake them out of it almost.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the
Uh,
crux of a lot of the work. It's called like a self-fulfilling prophecy, that, and
mhm.
I think, that's a lot of the manifestation stuff out there, is like helping people stop eliminating self-sabotage, these narratives, these stories that that then create the person's reality totally, entirely.
Mhm.
Um so, and I think meditation helps elicit the awareness of the narratives, and be able to, like, recognize that is what's influencing someone's behavior. And so in the gym or in the dojo, if people are coming from that place of, when it gets hard, I'm going to give up because I can't push through it, or pain is too difficult for me to endure, conscious or unconscious. But meditation, I think, helps that come online so that people can then tackle that.
Yeah, no, it's training. I mean, you can't plan for a fire while your house is burning. I mean, you've got to put some time and effort into that. And if we're actually training our minds, training ourselves to be the people we want to be when we want to be those people, then when the actual disaster, catastrophe, whatever it is, strikes, or even the minor inconvenience, the minor challenge,
Right. Right.
it's not cataclysmic all the time. It's, there's more traffic than you expected or whatever.
Right. Right.
Um, you don't have to treat it as a tragedy. You can recognize it for what it is, and respond well. That's really all it's about. Like, we don't really, in terms of physical practice, we don't do a lot of tournaments. We're not, interested in
Mhm.
making like a world champion so much as a champion in your world, meaning
Yeah.
and actually just be the person that is most appropriate for your circumstances and for what your goals are. And to me,
Right.
the only way to really understand what those goals are is to know yourself. And the best way that I know personally to know yourself is to sit and spend some time alone. And I think that
Right.
people don't do it because we don't like the company sometimes. I mean, we're kind of always trying to keep our minds busy. I notice
Right.
on your, I follow your page and your site, and you have times where you talk about unplugging. You talk
Mm,
about kind of taking that quiet space for yourself. I've seen you write things about, like, I'm not going to answer my phone for X amount of hours. I'm not going to feel obligated just because the phone dings. I have to text right back or whatever.
right. Right.
I
Right.
think that's awesome. I mean, that shows a strength that a lot of people don't have, because
Mm,
they're so dependent on that constant kind of interaction because they don't want to be by themselves.
right.
So I really
Right.
admire that about your work. That I've
Mm.
seen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. I agree wholeheartedly that people fear themselves and so are frantic in their efforts to avoid it, and that doesn't work. It only perpetuates these patterns that are left unexamined. Um and I think there's also just like a void that a lot of people feel and struggle and really scramble to fill, and that there are healthy and unhealthy ways to do that. There are ways that optimize our functioning and our well-being and our sense of joy and satisfaction in our lives, and there are ways that create, intense depths of despair. So I think
Right.
solid yeah.
I mean, if I'm miserable by myself, I got a couple options. I could learn to be okay with myself and learn to maybe channel that energy into a practice or into a workout or something else.
Right.
Or I could go get a bunch of alcohol, or I could go to a bunch of
Right.
drugs and just turn my mind off. Either way, it's the same thing, right? It's just
Right.
one's going to lead to destruction and nothing but negativity. And the other is a
Yeah.
true transcendence and a true overcoming. And I think
Right.
that just like quitting in a fight, the drugs and alcohol are the easier choice. I mean, if you,
Right.
I mean, it is. It's not the right choice, but it's certainly understandable
Right.
why
Totally.
people drink. It's understandable why people do drugs.
Right.
Um, it's just that, and there has to be some motivation, belief, and faith almost that there's something else that can get you past these little suffering moments that you're going through. And it's no mystery to me that people quit. It's no mystery to
Mm.
me that people take the easiest way out.
Sure. 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 um Yeah, being a human can be hard, huh? It's hard.
Yeah. Well, it's like I mean, I'm a Game of Thrones fan, and they say winter is coming. And it's always coming. I mean, it is. There's always going to be something. You
Right.
know, um, and what we can do, the best we can do, is try to be able to respond well in those situations and not be completely wrecked. I mean, if you see yourself, you're a boat and you're on the ocean. I mean, there's going to be calm seas and there's going to be waves. There's going to be
Right.
storms, and you can't control that. So stop trying. I don't want
Right.
the idea of, if I meditate, the seas are always going to be calm. No, that's wrong.
Right.
And if you expect
Right.
that, that's wrong. If you
Right.
come see you for an appointment, that means that whatever's bothering me in my life is not going to be there. That's wrong. And to
Right.
think that the practice is no good, and to think that Dr. Rachel can't help me or whatever. I mean, like, if that's, you're looking at it and framing the question wrong. The idea
Right.
is to be able to at least have a sail, a rudder, and a steering wheel on that water, and to be
Sure.
able to be um, aware enough and to be proficient enough to navigate successfully, not to try to
Yeah.
control the water.
Right. You learn how to sail. I often use the like ride the waves with a surfboard.
Hmm.
Um but I think you're right, and I think, when you empower yourself to figure out how to ride the wave or sail the boat, you're free. Then you
Right,
are totally entirely free. There's nothing to fear because you
right.
know exactly what to do and what you need to do and how to nurture yourself through it, and you can rely on yourself. I think all of this, one thing that came up for me when I was thinking about this topic is that then you believe in yourself, you trust yourself, you no longer betray yourself or abandon yourself by going to the liquor store and ending up in this self-destructive pattern. You figured out how to be with the hard realities that you will invariably confront in life. And you know how to do it with tact and grace and love.
No, I 100% agree. And that's part of, other than just a healthy life and working out, to bring it back to your original, how to
Yeah.
tie into the physical, then
Yeah.
what happens is, when that wave comes, to use your analogy of riding the wave, it's not the first wave you've seen. You've
Right.
been in uncomfortable situations before, and now you can ride it with that confidence, with that,
Right.
right, in that feeling of empowered state that you just referenced, because it's
Right.
not your first time, and,
Right.
and it's better, to me, to, and obviously to you too, I mean, but to practice with your working out, with your training, whatever it is that you do. I think people should, and not everybody's going to want to punch and kick. Not everybody's going to want to run. Not everybody's going to want to lift weights. I mean, we all have different things that we're suited to, and I
Yeah.
recognize that. But everybody should do something that makes them a little bit uncomfortable every day,
For sure.
and do it in a controlled enough way that you can feel legitimate challenge, but also have a reasonable measure of success.
Hmm.
I think it arms you for life, for when those unexpected waves do come. You're in a
Yeah.
better position to ride them well.
Sure. Sure. I Well said. I mean, I think I want to, just to start to wrap it up, I wanted to say that I second your recommendation that, everybody should find some way to connect to their body, move their body, challenge their body. And then I think one of the main takeaways that I've got from you today practically is that, you know, it's more than anything about committing to yourself to to do it and to push through and to not let yourself give up on yourself and to trust that you can tolerate the discomfort and
Yeah, I think it's absolutely, and and just holding yourself accountable. If we could, I challenge
yeah,
a lot of people to say, I've never meditated, I've never done a workout, whatever it is. Okay, so just decide, I'm going to do this every day. If it's something, 10 push-ups, if it's sitting for 3 minutes, but I'm going to do it every day. I'm sick, so what? I'm doing it. I'm not giving myself the excuse, and make
yeah,
it where it's doable. If you say I'm going to run 15 miles a day, you're probably going to fail at that. But if you
right,
say that I could do, 10 push-ups a day, maybe that's something that's attainable for you.
right.
But hold yourself accountable to just be the kind of person who does what they say they'll do.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of your practice.
Sure. And I mean, that you just described integrity and accountability is such a big part of that. And I appreciate, the community that you're building and that I get to be a part of it and vice versa, because I think it's that type of connection with like-minded others that helps with the internal accountability, knowing that there's someone on the outside too who recognizes the work that you're putting in and supports you in that and is going to hold you to it.
No, it's great. I mean, I love reading your stuff, and I love following you, and it's good.
Ditto.
It's a different perspective, because mine is so just martial arts and folk, and you're bringing a completely different background as psychologist, as a woman, as, I mean, it just all kind of things, that different perspectives I don't have inherently, and it's
Yeah,
awesome to share that, and to be able to get your input. And I kind of feel like, if I said something that was off, I think that you would probably call me out on it, and that's a good thing.
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. I'm glad that you picked up on the fact that I take a bit of a no nonsense approach with compassion and, give people space. But yes, ditto. Thank you. And it's always fun to chat. So we'll have to think about what our next dynamic topic will be, Rudy.
All right, we will. This has been great. I appreciate you taking the time, and I will talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay.
Peace.
Good night.
Bye.